She's the CEO of the Art of Heritage, an organization that aims to preserve Saudi Arabia's cultural heritage. She's also the founder of Noon Jewelry brand and advisor to the chairman of the Saudi Jockey Club and director of the Saudi Cup. Her pioneering efforts in safeguarding and preserving cultural heritage are always evident in her works. Joining us today, one of the most graceful people I have had the honor to meet, Her Royal Highness Princess Noor Al Faisal. Princess Noor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. As a point of, because we were talking about this a little while ago, so as a point of interest, it's interesting to see how one thing leads to another. So I started out, and at my core, I'm a jewelry designer, so product designer. So I started out with Noon, and then that turned into a real interest in supporting the local design ecosystem. So that's how I founded Adlal to do that. And then from there, I got offered the consultancy for His Royal Highness Prince Bandar bin Khalid with the Jockey Club. And then through my interactions there with the dress code and really looking into how to bring our culture and our heritage into that event, I found myself as the CEO of Art of Heritage.
Beautiful, very beautiful timeline and turn of events.
Absolutely, all completely unexpected.
Wow, the best things happen like this.
Exactly.
So first of all, Princess Noor, I would like to congratulate you on your collaboration with Asprey.
Thank you.
Just recently, and the recognition of your work at Sotheby's. So that must have been amazing. And could you tell us the story behind how it came?
First of all, unexpected.
Okay,
again.
all right.
I mean, I just, the reason I like to highlight that is because, I know when I talk to a lot of younger designers, everybody thinks that they need to have a plan and everything has to be, all you need to do is, sorry, I just go into the mode straight away.
Please.
What you need to do is you need to be sort of aware enough to spot an opportunity and confident enough to jump on it.
Okay.
And to be aware that you never know enough and you're always learning on your feet and not to make mistakes.
Yes.
And I like to highlight a lot, I joke about I never know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out on the way kind of thing, which may not be the best advice. I think it's important.
Process,
I think people need to understand that you're never an expert, you're always learning. And that's sort of been the methodology of my life. And
that's beautiful.
Asprey was unexpected. The question was asked, would you like to do a collection for Asprey?
Okay.
And I was not going to say no.
Obviously.
Obviously. I thought it was really an opportunity. And for me, the more I see Saudi designers on the world stage, the prouder I am. And I really want to showcase that really anyone can do it. Yeah. If you have the talent and the hard work, you can do it.
Absolutely.
It was really interesting because it was at the beginnings of me stepping into when I really stepped into Art of Heritage. And so I was really learning and exploring my heritage.
Yeah. I remember we talked about this, and you said I'm learning as I go, which is beautiful because not a lot of people say that. Yeah.
Oh no, I am very aware of how little I know.
Okay, that's beautiful.
At all times, but I think that also allows that you always are in a space where you're learning something new, and I love learning new things. Also, I think it speaks to the fact that our heritage is so rich and so varied and so many different ways.
That's
and
true.
When you think about all the different cultures, throughout the history that have kind of poured through our culture as well, there's so much to learn. I don't think one lifetime is enough.
Yeah.
And when you're younger, or when I was younger, I wasn't as focused, and I have to say, I experienced my culture around me, but I wasn't as focused on it.
Yeah.
And what I love about this generation that's coming out now is how important it is to them and how, it's front and center.
Yes.
And so I'm on the journey with them.
That's beautiful. And I think this all goes back to the country's push towards cultural initiatives and empowering all cultural entities to go forward.
So absolutely, but I think it's part of a larger narrative, which is, I think we've come to a point where we want to be able to control the narrative of our own story.
Absolutely.
And that includes our heritage and our culture.
Yeah.
And I remember a few years back, I remember when they did the, this is a side thing, but it really was important to me. They did the Al-Ula exhibition at Institut du Monde Arabe in Paris.
Okay.
And I remember going, I remember walking through, and about halfway through, there was something that was, and I couldn't quite figure it out. I couldn't quite figure it out. But there was something different about this. It was a small exhibition, but there was something different. And I knew it was important, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then halfway through, I realized that all of the screens and all of the experts, they were all locals to Al-Ula.
Okay.
And so all of the people speaking to me were speaking in Arabic.
Okay.
They were all local people. And I had grown up in a time where the experts were the people who were coming from the outside of your culture and looking at your culture. And something so under the radar made such a big
impact, of course.
And so for me, I think it's important to understand that now is our time to express our culture, to express our heritage, to give to the world an idea of who we say we are, as opposed to who you say we are.
Exactly.
And I think it's really a beautiful thing to see.
Very beautiful. And alhamdulillah that we're going through this. Princess, I remember Princess Rima said something about we're going through a cultural renaissance.
Yes.
Which is truly what is happening right now. And alhamdulillah.
I think it's not just cultural. I think we're going through a renaissance
7,000%.
Every sort of stratosphere you can imagine. MashaAllah, tabarakallah.
Ya Rab, alhamdulillah. So, Princess Noura, could you tell us, give us an overview of Art of Heritage and the vision behind the creation itself, and what inspired you personally? Because you said it was Noon Jewelry, and then Adlal as a consultancy company for designers, and then the Jockey Club, and then it was Art of Heritage.
So I think every step in the way, kind of, you learn a little bit more about yourself, and you maybe prove to yourself or disprove to yourself, as the case may be, what your capabilities are and what they aren't. So I think Art of Heritage, there's a personal connection there for me because, you know, it was born out of Jam'iyat al-Nahda, and I am واحدة من بنات Jam'iyat al-Nahda, so I grew up within that sort of atmosphere, and within that field I was privileged enough to be raised around the women who dedicated their lives, their time, their effort towards the Tamkeen al-Mar'a, so really to empower other women. And part of that was the preservation of our heritage, and part of that was what later became Art of Heritage within Al-Nahda, and then eventually moved away from Al-Nahda, and now it's still part of Al-Nahda. So let me put it, so it's partly owned by Al-Nahda, so it's still a not-for-profit company that supports Jam'iyat al-Nahda.
All right.
So it's still doing what it was meant to do.
Okay.
And so the focus, I think, from the beginning was on two separate things. One was, as a follow-up to what al-Nahda does, is Tamkeen al-Mar'a, so really giving those crafts and techniques to another generation and allowing these women to use them as a way to support themselves, right? So to have businesses by which they could support their families. So that was one. And then it turned into like a production line, and it's both homeware and fashion of a sort, including haute couture, like really high levels of haute couture, as we just had in the exhibition in the Riyadh Fashion Week.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yes.
And really, so it's preserving that heritage, but also, you know, giving it to a new generation, and in terms of either as technique, but also to these young designers to start using it in their innovative designs as well. Yani. So it's more towards that.
Okay.
The other side of that is an archive. So it's a collection of like a lot. Let's say 570.
I have the number.
Your number? Okay.
57,000.
Yes, individual items.
Wow.
So that includes all sorts of things. So you've got garments, you've got textiles, you've got jewelry, you've got pieces that are, you know, I mean, you've got rocks with engravings on them, you've got Quran, lots of really old ones, images, pictures, maps, some unbelievable maps. ففي أشياء كثيرة موجودة, and there's a lot there.
Yeah.
And this collection, if you think about it, is really something that is the life's work of a certain group of women who came together with the focus of preserving heritage at a time when really it wasn't looked at. So this is like 30 years ago.
Wow.
No one was thinking about that then.
Absolutely no.
And they were committed. They went out and they collected as much as they can, both locally and internationally, to create this archive.
So it's auction houses, it's going to people.
It's everything. It's going to people and saying, would you loan us, would you give us, would you it's a lifetime's work of these women who are just committed to that.
That's beautiful.
And the upkeep of the collection and all of that, everything that goes with that, with the goal of making it a public available to the public at some point, which we're working on, inshallah ya Rab. So we're
it's going to be maybe like a museum.
It's going to be available to the public. I'm not going to say what, because it's not my place. But what I will say is that it's amazing to see these women's life work come towards,
and being
fruition and being showcased in the way that they wanted. Because all they ever wanted was to give this heritage to a next generation. فمن جد الحمد لله.
Alhamdulillah, that's beautiful, honestly. And best of luck with the exhibition or museum. I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal, because I also wanted to ask you if I could maybe have a tour and take a look around the 57,000
items, individual items. I will make sure that the request goes up, inshallah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so cultural heritage is the most tangible, handicrafts are the most tangible, intangible heritage.
Yes.
And for you to preserve it, you have to, how can I say this? So to get the accurate way of how the craft is done must be very challenging if the craft is endangered.
Yes.
How do you guys manage the authenticity and validate the craft itself that is being done right now?
So a lot of it is, unfortunately, there's a lot that is lost. So that intangible part of it, you can't really get back. You hear stories. There's the everything that you can find in terms of stories and tales and whatever. But mostly in those cases, it tends to be a reconstruction after the fact of what was sort of done. Based on either evidence that is either written down or family history or whatever. And that's the sort of way you go about it. And there's just no other way to do it at this point. And we've, unfortunately, over the years, we've lost a few. But the evidence of what the government is doing is really quite dramatic in terms of preserving and keeping. And we're just one part, of a very large organization that is very focused on just that. So at Art of Heritage, there's a lot that we've preserved ourselves, and we try and pass that on through courses and learning and. But really, at the moment, I'm trying to collaborate with universities and higher education to see how much we can do in terms of either research or really bringing in young designers, postgraduates or just pre-graduates to really come in and understand the techniques as well and see. But mostly it's championing and exposure. That's really the most that you can do, because the reality is you can preserve something as heritage, and that's fantastic and it's important, but it's not really alive unless it's being that's different to reviving something. And it's, for me personally, my real interest, but that's a personal thing, is in the revival.
And like ways and initiative to revive to
bring it back, to make it to bring the practices back, to make it thriving economy, to create jobs, to find a way to bring that language alive, because at the end of the day, it represents us.
It's beautiful. And So I feel like there has been a surge recently in the crafts and
yes.
traditional crafts in it's more commercialized now. You see it in boutiques, you see it I don't know, maybe at the airport.
I think with the rise of tourism, naturally that's going to happen to a certain extent.
Okay.
But then there's a difference between crafts and things that are representative, so as airports and at boutiques or hotel boutiques or whatever, or in Al-Ula, for example, or whatever. There's a certain level, but I'm very interested in the real reconstruction of the techniques in terms of, like, for example, so one thing I'm pushing constantly, and which is the reason that we were at Riyadh Fashion Week, is I really want to push as much as I can the young designers or the haute couture designers, or to see how they would look at these techniques and incorporate them in their designs now. And that's how you keep it alive. And that's how you represent something on the world stage. You know, I mean, Abadia, Shahad did the most amazing job with the sedu. When you see the details for sedu, it's not exactly a sedu زي ما نعرفها. It's not the right colors. It's not, but that's not preservation.
It's
what
her
she's
reiteration
doing.
to it.
It's her innovation of it, and how she translates that to a modern Saudi woman, and how she lives her life and how she wants to represent herself.
Absolutely.
I really to do that with all the other things as well.
So, okay, you just said about, you talked about reviving and you talked about art of heritage. I feel like we answered a few questions.
Sorry.
No, we answered them all in one. And okay, can you tell us about the role of local women, especially those with special needs, in the production of the pottery? Because you guys are very famous for your pottery, like decor. So how has that involvement shaped both the products and the community itself?
So, I mean, I have to say that it is an honor and a privilege for me to walk into that space and to spend some time with those ladies. They are supremely committed. They are extremely talented.
Wow.
And they love what they do. And when you walk in, you can feel the joy. You really do feel the joy. And I would have to say that you also see, I see a lot now, we have a lot of younger ladies who are coming in.
Okay.
And they're training with them.
Wow.
And
so they're learning.
They're learning. And it's really wonderful. I look forward to a time when really, at the moment, the way it's worked out is that group of talented ladies is working in pottery. But I really want to open up all of Art of Heritage to it.
I mean,
so I feel like that there's a lot in terms of having a job, having a way to support yourself, getting that sense of pride in what you do, and they are extremely proud of their work, and rightly so. I mean, I think anyone who's seen the pieces that they make will
very
understand
beautiful.
how beautiful they are and how fantastic.
Magnificent. Honestly, I took a look at the website and everything. Honestly, all the products are just superb.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So we talked about the 75,000 artifacts, 57,000 artifacts in your archive. What is one of the most notable pieces of the collection, and that you truly believe it encapsulates Saudi heritage? And why does it hold?
There's not just one.
Okay.
But I'm very biased.
Okay.
Because I am a jewelry designer.
All right.
So I'm gonna start with that.
Okay.
But there is a collection of jewelry that is, for me, the most interesting I've ever seen, because through the jewelry you understand, you know, the way that we were part of the silk trade route, right? So you understand that there's all these different cultures that fed in through us and came through our lands. And what that means is that there were all these different elements, whether it was coins, whether it was this, whether it's elements from all these different, whether it's Indian or African even, all these different things. And they kind of, you know, the Bedouins being the ultimate recyclers, taken and reused in our jewelry. And you can see the story of, like, our entire history within within these pieces of jewelry. Wow. So within this collection. And there's so many stories you can tell. And that's why one of the reasons I'm super excited for this collection to really be in the public, because the opportunity for people to really come in and tell all these different stories is just, it's wonderful. And I really am excited for that to happen.
Inshallah, ya Rab, hopefully soon. And
best for me, the jewelry.
Jewelry, you would say. Okay. How would you measure the impact of Art of Heritage on the preservation of Saudi culture and the local community? Are there any success stories that stand out to you that you would like to mention?
I mean, I think for me, again, just to say that, I've been in Art of Heritage, the CEO, only for just over a year.
Okay.
And for me, it's really been about understanding how to transition it from one thing to another.
Yeah.
And I think I need to stop and just give credit to Amira Basma bint Majid bin Abdulaziz for the years of hard work and the care, the meticulous attention to detail in what she did and how she did it. Unbelievable. So I think the first thing that I'm proud of is the collection itself.
Okay.
100%. There's a few different things. In my day, the thing that I was witness to was just to be able to see the first time our Olympic team was in Tokyo. The fact that they were wearing Art of Heritage for me is something that that when we were there for the first time, that Art of Heritage was there as well, meant a great deal to me on a personal level. There's so many stories, I think. It's very difficult. There's exhibitions we've participated in. Yeah. There's things that we've, tried to bring to the public. There's collaborations. And this last thing with the Riyadh Fashion Week for me was important because what we exhibited there were pieces that were all made by Art of Heritage. So none of those were like from the archive. They were all made by us.
So they were, like you would say, innovative...
Some of them were innovative, and some of them were reproductions as well. And there was even this one case where we had one piece where you had the reproduction with the traditional technique, and then we had the wedding dress with the same technique in an innovative way, and sort of trying to showcase, the possibilities of what could happen there, but really, really quite beautiful. And we have a designer, Suad, who is supremely talented and extremely shy.
MashaAllah.
But what she's managed to do over the years is really quite exceptional.
That's
as well.
Beautiful. Godspeed to you at Art of Heritage. Inshallah, many more showcases to come.
Inshallah, ya Rab, inshallah. These ladies have worked very hard, and they continue to work very hard, and they deserve to be celebrated.
I bet. Yes. So, collaboration often plays a crucial role in heritage preservation. What partnerships, whether local or international, have been pivotal in Art of Heritage or Noon or Adlal or Saudi Cup? Because, and I want to add to this question is, does Noon get inspired from the original jewelry or the techniques of cultural heritage or handicrafts?
So there's a lot. So for example, obviously the collection with Asprey, no, because that was a request from Asprey to use their jewelry as a point of inspiration. For my jewelry and Noon, there has always been a certain element of it, but it's more in the construction, the architecture of the pieces. I have to say, and I think it's important to note, that when I started out, there was a lot more of, and I think that's probably because I was working in Europe and everything, so there was a lot more of that French sort of style to it. But as I grew in confidence, as all jewelers do, and started to really, or all designers do, and started to really understand what it was that I wanted and to create my own language, then it was easier to work that way. So it became more what people call minimalist, but I think that we are minimalist in terms of our design in general, if you think about it, and very geometrical, and so that translated very much into my jewelry. Now, having said that,
okay,
and in the spirit of always growing and always learning and having access to see the jewelry collection we were talking about in the archive, I'm currently working on a new collection for Noon that is completely based off of the original traditional Saudi jewelry from the collection, inshallah. So it'll be a very modern, minimal take.
Okay.
But it will be completely inspired by that.
So it's like an everyday piece kind of.
I'm not there yet.
Okay.
No, I'm not there yet. I could tell you what it is right now, but that's no guarantee that that's what it will be when it's over.
Okay. Fair enough. So this question, I feel like maybe it could be my favorite. So as we're entering this new age of AI, and it's becoming increasingly integrated across various sectors, in your opinion, could AI play a role in reviving and preserving these crafts?
Absolutely.
Okay, and if so, how do you envision the application in this context?
So I was really talking, I'm just going to dive in here because I had this conversation quite recently. There's another project that I'm working on, and I managed to have a call with these ladies. I can't remember where they're from, but so inspiring. And they have a company called Augmented Weaving.
Okay.
And so they were talking about what they do in the virtual reality world, and that they can take patterns, images, and whatever of pieces of fabric or clothing or whatever, and they can, in the virtual world, reconstruct it and bring it back to what it was.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a room for reconstructing pieces from small elements and taking them back to their original, to understand what they were originally.
Wow.
So there's a lot of room for these modern techniques to actually support what we're doing. That's just one example. And that's an example that I just heard about. But I am sure that there are many, many, many ways. This is, I think of it a lot like the Industrial Revolution. You know what I mean? We're just there again. And yes, there will be a lot of disruption. And yes, there will be, I think we as humanity need to understand what are the skills that we need to take forward and what are the skills that are important. Yeah. So I saw something somewhere, probably on TikTok, that was saying that what AI can do is they can give you every example of everything that's been done.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
In every it can look through everything that's there.
It has a very thorough
but it's not going to come up
okay.
with the idea. So the example being that it can tell you everything in the world, but it takes a human mind to say, I want to go to the moon.
Fair enough.
Right?
Fair enough,
because it's not going to make that leap
yeah.
without the human imagination or the desire or the spark. So we need to focus on the spark.
Fair enough, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I absolutely understand. But I feel like because I'm the type of person that is very, very afraid of AI. It's just because I feel like it's the type of thing that if you have too much of it, it's going to kill you one day. Quite literally.
Yes.
I maybe a lot of people might think...
No. I understand totally.
Yeah.
I understand totally.
But it can be very, very useful. I mean... just using ChatGPT on your phone and asking it a question about anything, it's just insane. But the humanistic aspect of things...
So, if I can...
Absolutely, please.
I think where, the technique, the technical aspect of what can and can't be done, what we can do now across all fields. It's not just AI.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things in bioengineering and a lot of other aspects that are... Even in the medical field, there are a lot of things that we can do. But then the question is, and I had a conversation recently, or I was privy to a conversation recently, where an amazing gentleman called Dr. Mahmoud Khan said, the question is not what you can do, the question is what you should do.
Fair.
So I think what we should focus on, for me, is the morality around how we can and cannot be allowed to use
AI
AI or any of these modern things.
Okay.
And I think those are the questions we need to be focusing on, because at the end of the day, it's a tool.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this is a deep conversation that goes into 100 different things. But I think that we need to be spending as much time on the whys and the should we's and the should we nots in order to regulate. But it's in the beginning of things, there's always this sense of freedom and maybe living dangerously, and before you understand the rules of what should be and shouldn't be, what can be or can't be, because and we just haven't gotten there yet. It's not We've not created that system that makes us feel safe within it.
True. I wanted that now that we've opened this subject, I wanted to pick your mind about something. I don't have it here.
Okay.
I'm going to wing it. I recently was reading about in there's an article from David. It's a book actually from David Desmond Hall. He talks about how cultural industries and how it was cultural industries and then it was cultural economy. It changed throughout the years, and it's been said by, what's his name? Benjamin, I forgot his first name, but he said something about an artwork, in this case, losing its aura. So, for example, if you see a picture of the Mona Lisa on your phone, it loses its aura rather than when you are in the Louvre and actually seeing it in person. And this, it checks off some points of how authentic and how real the experience is with the artwork. And then you have the other idea of commodifying the culture and making it mass. So this mass production of crafts, the artworks, and making Van Gogh's piece, like, I don't know, making an ear out of an eraser. It's just sometimes it's...
That's an amazing example.
Yeah, I mean, because when I see
very dark, though, I have to say.
Yeah, and when I saw it, I was like, it's disturbing because this man has went through so much, and
we shouldn't be giggling.
Exactly, but how can like an institution create an ear as an eraser and call this like you're commodifying out of a man's sorrows?
I think we've passed that point. And I think, first of all, to use Van Gogh as an example, I think when someone is that famous over that much time, and they do actually become a commodity, they lose their humanity for sure, 100%. And then we can get into the whole idea of fame and commodifying and actors and Hollywood, and it just, what point do they just become, these human beings become a way to make money? And where is the humanity in that? And I think, there's a lot of questions in that. When it comes to art as well, I agree 100%. You're never going to have, for example, I love Klimt and I love The Kiss. And I have seen it many, many, many times in images, in pictures, online, whatever. But I had to go
actually see it
to go and sit there in front of it, and I spent half an hour just staring at it, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
As long as we have the understanding of what the original and whatever you say, whatever reproduction, whatever, it's never going to have that emotion in it that you can feel, because you're connecting with the emotion through it. At least that's what I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's the technique, there's the thing, but it's the emotion you either connect with or you don't, whether it's an art piece or anything else. I don't think there's a way to stop the commodification of anything at this point. But I think, again, it goes back to the morality of you choosing what you value. Do you value a reproduction that's made in China? Or do you value, and will you give value to something that is made by a local artisan?
Yeah.
Right?
True.
And what is it that gives value to it? So one of the things that we did in the exhibition that we just had, and I was very adamant that we do that. We didn't put anything we put a little bit about the piece, a little bit about the technique and the region that it came from, and then we put the number of hours it took to finish the piece.
Wow.
And that's what got a lot of reaction from people, because they looked at something and it looks like a dress. And people have gotten so used to machine embroidery and I don't know, that they don't think about it. And then they see something like 560 hours. And they go, what?
That's insane.
That's insane. It took that long. And then that's the value. So for me, I think if you're communicating correctly on, I always associate, this is just me, I associate luxury with time and technique.
Okay.
That's my definition of luxury.
All right.
It's the time that goes into it and the level of the technique.
True.
Yes, there are materials, and the materiality is important as well, but I think that falls under technique somehow.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so as long as we are morally, getting back to that question, making sure that our parameters include a respect for the time and technique, then you'll always value that. And there will always be room for both.
Okay.
You know? Okay. But it's who we choose and what we choose to value.
Right.
And then that's our communication with each other. That's our communication with our communities and to our children as we're raising them, which is always very important, so that they value the right things.
True. So, and you would say in total, yes to AI?
Yes.
In the right way?
In the right way.
In the moral way?
Exactly. And it's the moral, I think, that's important.
Right.
It's in the moral way.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that there are governments in the world that should be, setting those parameters, and institutions and governments working together and organizations to set those parameters for what can and can't be done.
Yeah.
The reality is, anyone can do anything at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a matter of time until things kind of settle into...
Ya Rab. Hopefully.
إن شاء الله يا رب.
إن شاء الله.
بس قولي أنا جدا متفائلة. I'm always an optimist.
يا رب.
I always.
Yeah, I really hope so. I really do hope so. With everything that's happening in the world right now, there's so much.
I know.
It's unfortunate and it's sad and
It's a scary time. I think
very much.
It's a scary time. Yeah.
Okay. So the Saudi Cup has gained immense success over the years, and one of its standout features is 100 Saudi brands.
Yes.
The pavilion itself. Can you share with us your involvement in curating this pavilion, and what role do you play in supporting these designers? And what do you, if I were a designer and I am a part of the Saudi 100 brands, what do you expect my work to be in that pavilion?
So I think there was an agreed upon dress code right at the beginning for the first year. And it was really for that first year part of a larger sort of structure of what we wanted to do, which was to really promote Saudi. The idea was His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman noticed the first year the amazing attention that the event got and understood that this was really a window by which they could showcase Saudi culture. And so I was very, very proud on my first year, which was the second year of the Saudi Cup, to be the first event that ever dealt with all of al-hayat, so all of the commissions within the Ministry of Culture.
Yeah.
Which was a lot.
I bet.
but probably the most exciting time of my life. And it went from anything from the dress code of the invitees to the food, to the music, to anything you can imagine. It was there. And so once that was established, the next year was the year of the 100 brands. And so there was a really big discussion about really putting the Saudi Cup in as part of the, let's say, the curriculum of the 100 brands. So it would be one of those stops along the way within the whole program. And so the designers from the 100 brands are expected to create a piece inspired by Saudi heritage. And somehow along the way, there's like the equine world has come into it somehow as well. But you can give a designer the parameters, but a creator is going to be creative.
True.
And they want to use the opportunity to do something that's really creative. So then there was this format or this pavilion where you have an exhibition of a piece by the 100 brands within this sort of thing. And then in and around that, this sort of Met Gala event
it's
giving, thing just happened.
Kentucky Derby meets
something.
Met Gala.
Something.
Yeah.
And it really has become this sort of, it's grown into its own identity, and it's become this sort of event that brings people from all over. And what I love is now you see people walking around in international people wearing their own traditional clothing or their own, and it's really fantastic.
It's beautiful.
It's a festival is the only way I can describe it. It's got that festive feeling.
I went last year, and among the many very avant-garde costumes or clothings I've seen, I've also seen a bunch of women wearing those small hats that you wear at the the racing,
the ascot or the so people, I mean, I love this feeling of celebration, and people come together, and now because it's with Yom al-Watani as well, it's just this long weekend of festivity.
True.
And celebrating heritage and identity. And some people choose to go very traditional with the heritage, which I love as well. I once had someone come up to me and say that she was wearing her grandmother's outfit that had been in the closet. That's beautiful. So the emotional connection with that is really something, and she was so proud, and she looked so beautiful. And then you have someone like Qurmuz with Burj al-Hamam and the birds in it. And anything in between. You know what I mean? And there's just this, I don't know. I like the celebration part.
It's beautiful, honestly, and it's a way to express also, and I feel like also pushing the artist's boundaries as to show me what you got. Like,
well, I think in terms of fashion, and I'm only going to speak about fashion because this is what I've noticed because of the inclusion of these type of events, and then you've got the fashion week, and then you've got this. It's pushed the boundaries of what they want to do as well. So they're really, and they've become, they'll go to Paris Fashion Week, and they'll go to Italy, and they'll go to Arafti. For really, it's come in. We've seen that with the art as well. So we just had an event, part of Al-Ula, that was in Paris with all these artists at the residency, which was fantastic. So you see a lot more of that, and with Wadi al-Fan and with all of that happening as well. It's really quite amazing. And what Dr. Sumaya is doing, Kamana, with the architecture and design is quite impressive as well. I think, whether these events, and I'm going to say this, whether these events are to your taste or not, but the reality is that they have such an impact because they create that excitement in and around the craft of the design, that bustling. And that's, that's what people want. They want to be successful. They want to be challenged.
And having the opportunity to showcase your creations was never an option before, and now that we have that option, now that these...
Can I say something?
Absolutely, please.
So in Fashion Week, one of the things, and I know there was some commentary about it online, but I have to say something. I never thought I'd live to see the day where a fashion designer's father would be sitting front and center, cheering her on.
That's
right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I came out of Fashion Week in general, and the design community as well in general, there is something, and I think that speaks to who we are as a people. There is something beautiful about the way the creative industries and the creative communities are supporting each other. And they're coming out to support each other, like actively. That's true. And I don't see that anywhere else. And I really do hope that we don't lose that.
Inshallah. I really hope so. And it is true, Saraha. We see that a lot. Even, like I said in the beginning of the conversation previous to this, when we were talking about the support, honestly, I haven't seen anything but support when it comes to the podcast in showcasing and covering each and every part of Saudi's culture. A lot of people question why it's in English. A lot of people, because we know what our culture is. The world doesn't.
They don't. And I think the more we speak, the reality is that I think we need both.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you have a generation that is eager to learn and they want to learn. But you also need to be speaking to the outside world. You're not... Because if we don't speak for ourselves, who will?
Exactly. English is the number one Number two, spoken language in the world. And it's just to showcase how much beauty, how much depth, how much culture we have. And it's each and every part in its different regions.
Absolutely.
And every time you delve deep, it gets deeper and deeper, and you don't know, like, I went to Al-Hassa recently for the very first time, and I was just astonished.
It's beautiful.
How, يعني, it was insane. I went to Jabal al-Gar, Jabal Gara, and just to see that this is here. Why didn't I know about this?
I know. I have a wish list now. I have a bucket list of all the places I want to go in Saudi. And I have a group of friends, international friends, who are so excited, and I just need to find the time to do it.
Yes,
just
I know
to
what
do
you
it.
mean.
Yeah,
I'm doing rounds now. I finished المنطقة الشرقية, so Eastern Province. Now moving on to
beautiful.
Yes, inshallah, it's all on a road trip.
That's what's beautiful about it.
Yes, inshallah, and the roads are very safe, which is alhamdulillah great.
Alhamdulillah, ya Rabb.
Yes. Princess Noura.
Another bonus of being in Saudi.
Yes, very much, very much
important. Safety.
Alhamdulillah. Princess Noura, thank you so much for joining us.
Shukran lak.
Thank you.
Thank
you for sharing your insights, and I had a very insightful and beautiful conversation with you.
I loved it. Thank you very
so much. Thank you.